I have so much to say, but it's time for Social Watch. So my mic goes off and your voice comes on. Time to go through some of the feedback that you've been having on social media and the things that you've heard to say. And where do we start off today? We put out a poll asking, do you think the passing of the 2/3 gender rule will help improve gender equality in Kenya, and how? So 69% said yes, and 31% of you said no. This was on Instagram. But gender equality is a very hot topic, and it's something that touches on everybody. Some agree with it, some do not agree, but everyone always has an opinion. So let's just sample some of the thoughts that have been shared before about gender equality. Ativat says, we've tried it with the incorporation of women reps. How is that situation so far? We are adding more women to parliament, yet they get those positions and do literally nothing while raising the wage bill. In fact, the same women reps don't even know what their mandate is. So let's stick to the original electoral MP positions. Janet?
That's another sad reality. I don't know. I think there's one or two women reps that I know I've spoken to who seem to have a very good grasp of the issues that they're dealing with, and they're actually making an effort. I think what we see play out a lot of the time is histrionics and drama. And yeah, a lot of them don't understand their mandate. And so it's not that we need to do away with the women rep position. I think we need to choose the right leaders. At the end of the day, that's what it comes to. And eventually, yes, incorporate them into MP so that it's not women rep. It doesn't look like you're now a woman dealing with women's issues. I think you should be a leader dealing with the issues of Kenyans.
Yeah.
You shouldn't need to segregate it. But right now, it's a step towards that direction of we're dealing with the Kenyans. But yeah, we need leaders who are not about drama and politics. They understand the issue and they're passionate about following through. Yeah.
Let's take a look at another. On Twitter, at Rahel_all says, Global Gender Gap Report ranked Kenya at 76 globally, dropped from 63 in 2016. Rwanda was third. If not careful, will be remembered as that African country that had potential to lead the continent after the new constitution, but squandered the opportunity.
That's another thing I worry about. I really do, because like the constitution clearly states that, you know, everybody has the same rights. We have a gender ministry that exists to amplify gender rights. We have bills in place that will improve the lives of women and girls. But I don't know where the implementation is. And it makes me feel like they're doing that as a show, like as a smoke screen to say, but we have the papers, but on the ground it's completely different. And if we keep letting that happen, then it's like, oh yeah, I mean, but it's in the law, but it's not on the ground. It concerns me.
Let's take a look at another reaction. At Kaut Bernard says, women should fight their way up the ladder. The notion of 2/3 gender rule only attempts to classify women as second-class creatures. Most of the current women reps literally idle in parliament. Ballot box is the best.
Again, it's a misunderstanding around what the 2/3 gender rule is. And I think, like I said, once there's enough understanding of 2/3 is not about promoting women for the sake of promoting women, but having women represented. And that's fair. But yes, I do feel like there's a lot of people who are in parliament, men and women, who are wrongly voted in. I don't think they're promoting the Kenyan agenda. They're not advancing the Kenyan agenda, whether it's for youth, persons with disability, and women. And yes, the ballot is best. I'm very optimistic, I was telling you earlier, about 2022 and about saying, I feel like there's a shift where people will say enough is enough. And only when we have the right leaders who implement the right way with the right stakeholders, we will make headway. Yeah.
Okay, let's take a look at another. At Bing Charlie says, the solution is to grant women equal access in party political positions, which will ensure equitable party nominations to contest political seats, not creating additional positions that will further burden Wanjiku. Equity at party levels. Unless you're just given a ticket as a nominated member of parliament, we rarely see women get these tickets, and some are even pushed out or rigged out.
It's very patriarchal and it's very hostile. I was speaking to a group of young women who tried to run for office, you know, in the last election, and they were saying, I mean, short of getting threats, you know, because it's patriarchal. What are you doing? You're a woman. Stay in your lane. And so as long as it continues to be hostile, patriarchal, pushing people out, whether you're a woman or just don't belong to that certain class, again, then the wrong leadership gets in there, and then it's a vicious cycle. I get the frustration with creating new seats because of burdens Wanjiku, which is true. I almost feel like right now it's a means to an end. If we do that and do it the right way, then eventually we can take them away or kind of like weave them into what already exists. But as long as we don't have any space to air our views, then we need the positions that allow us to get our voices heard.
Yeah, and it's very hostile, as you're saying, because one of the ladies who's very vocal, Badili Africa, Bina Maseno, was saying when she was vying, people tried to undress her. And once that happens to you, you're like, it's okay, I'll take a back seat.
I applaud people like Bina and Nerima and Silanto, exactly, who are saying, no matter what happens, I will keep fighting. And it's hard because they're the pioneers, but they don't know that they're paving the way for so many others. So yeah, it's extremely hostile, it's extremely sexist. You have to have a lot of guts and a great support system to run for office as a woman in this country.
Let's take a look at another. At LNJ22 says, let women leadership be evident in board, political party nominations, and civil service appointments. Let's appreciate the role of women leadership, which is to bring a balanced view to the country's agenda in all sectors. Leaving women out is not the answer. And this just speaks when the president was appointing his cabinet secretaries. He had an opportunity of setting the pace, but we did not see that. No, we didn't. And, you know, like I said, it's always like 2 steps forward and 20 steps back. You know, you can't have tokenism. And that's not to say that the cabinet secretaries we have, they're amazing, they're incredible, whether it's Farida and her knowledge and background. I mean, I worked for her, so I know she's an incredible mind, whether it's, you know, CS Kobia. But, you know, you have an opportunity to say, you know what, I'm going to fight hard to look for the right person for this position, and I want to see women, the right women, also bring that to the table and then appoint them. It really is him to set the pace. I think he does it in some ways, and then he falls short in others. If you don't have the right women representation, you can't have the right agenda being pushed. Again, when you look at Rwanda, for example, and some of the strides they've made economically and in society, a lot of the time it's because there was women at the helm. It reflects. If you have women and men, the right women and men in leadership, it reflects in the way the society runs. I feel like right now in Kenya, I mean, I am an optimistic Kenyan, but things are a bit messy in many areas. And it breaks my heart because I'm like, we have all the potential in the world, but we don't have the right leadership in many ways. Very few, but we don't have the right leadership in many ways. So we seek to bring the voice of Kenyans into this conversation, and we went to Technical University of Kenya just to speak to some of those students about what their perception of gender equality in the country is and what they think should be done to improve gender equality in the country. Listening to what the brilliant students had to say. Today we are at Technical University of Kenya to have a conversation with journalism students on gender equality and what their thoughts on the topic. When you hear the term gender equality, what do you understand or what comes to mind?
Okay, for me, gender equality is when men and women have equal opportunities both in the political sector, social sector, and economic sector.
Your thoughts?
Yeah, I also think the same as him is where women and men get the same access to resources and opportunity.
And do you think there is gender equality in Kenya? And if so, how?
I think there is gender equality in Kenya because of many improvements that have been made of late with the government. Actually, nowadays, you can find the chances to elect women representatives, as it was found that there before there were more men in the government than now, but now the number is almost being equalized. So that's
I also think yes or no, there's a steady growth in gender equality in Kenya because in as much as it's trying to grow, we still find some few challenges, but there's growth, yes.
And what are some of those challenges?
Like you find in the parliament, we still the 2/3 gender rule. It has been implemented, but you find that more than 60% are men. You find like 19% are women in the parliament. So you see, there's still a steady growth.
And when people think about gender equality or maybe the 2/3 gender rule, we think it's women who want this, but people forget that there are also men in the sector, and if women are more empowered than men, then we'll also have to do something for the men. What are your 2 cents on this in terms of just the 2/3 gender bill and the 1/3 gender rule?
Okay, I'd say as a country we've made progress in the same sector, but we have put in laws, but the government itself is not following up to make sure that the laws that we have put in place are being followed.
So what do we do to ensure that we strike a good balance so that even as we fight for the woman now, in future when she's empowered, then we are in a better place to empower the boy too?
Okay, as per now, I am not sure of what we shall do, because we are in a palatial society where men have been known to take the mantle when it comes to power. So I think for us, probably to find some balance, we should start having this conversation from the lower level of education.
What are some of the factors, in your opinion, that is hindering Kenya from achieving gender equality, or what are some of the challenges?
I think men are afraid, they're feeling intimidated with the way women are coming up. Sorry. Yeah, men are feeling intimidated. That is the major thing. And you know, men are this kind of beings that don't want to lose power. Like, they want to hold on to power forever, for better, for worse. They can't allow women to be over them. And also the culture. You see, like, we are from this culture where it was always known men are the head. Men are the head of everything. Even in our villages, they know that a woman's work is majorly in the kitchen. She can't go to school. So you see, our culture also is a challenge. Yeah.
Do you agree with her? You were laughing.
I do not agree with her, because you see, we are not afraid. It's how we've been raised.
They're not afraid, it's how they've been raised. And it goes back to the point you're saying, we need a cultural paradigm shift.
Absolutely. And you know what? I think one of them talked about it starting from, when they meant lower level, my thinking is even as young as school, right? I think if you almost have like gender equality 101 from like standard 5 or 6, let young people begin to understand that every life matters. Because as long as all they see is patriarchy, of course it will be repeated generation to generation. I have 2 sons, they're very young, but I already start thinking about, what am I showing them? What are they seeing in the home? What are they seeing dad do, mom do, that could be reinforcing certain stereotypes, you know what I mean? So even if it's something as little as telling him, you know, you should also be able to take your plate to the kitchen, and you should also be able to respect women, respect men, respect everyone. I feel like the only way, and it sounds like, oh, well, that sounds like a small way of doing it. These are young minds that are going to be leaders in someday. They're going to be the population. If we don't start at home and in school, then I kind of think we lose the plot. And I think we need to be able to take that very seriously. Start in a way that begins to make them normalize that every life matters, and that not one life matters more than the other. Yeah.
And then let's now shift over to a video comment, because we are always also telling you that if you have any thoughts or any comments you'd like to share, you can send them to us via video comment. This week we have a video comment from Dr. Joy Samoha, who's the department head at Technical University of Kenya. Listening.
The government needs to crush patriarchy in Kenya. And by crushing this patriarchy, I mean they need to move beyond the stereotypes that they have. And of course, these stereotypes begin at home. Maybe they need to empower people back at home. We need to empower parents, they empower the teachers, so that these teachers can help the kids. Because it goes back to the kids. Right now, at our age, we're a bit too old. It goes back to the kids. They need to learn how to speak. They need to learn how to treat people. They need to learn how to break these stereotypical narratives that are there in our country.
She's a lecturer at TUK, but she understands that we have to decolonize the mind, and even with whatever we are teaching our kids.
With kids and also teachers. I like that she said that, because you also find that teachers in a lot of ways also need guidance. Not all, we have brilliant teachers, but there's some who are very sheltered and naive, and then they pass that along, you know, and so they reinforce the patriarchy and the narrative that women and girls should be quiet, stop always raising your hand, you're so bossy, you're so loud, and yet maybe she's just confident. And so, yeah, I think it's schools and homes, even the workplace, those areas where people spend a lot of time are where this messaging should be reinforced very often. You know, there's this popular thing that's done in some American offices called brown bag discussions, where you literally just sit around with your lunch bags and you talk, and you pick a topic and you explore it. Those should be encouraged, because you have a brown bag discussion and you say, okay, let's talk about gender equality. Fight it out, but have the conversation.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? Yeah.
It starts with a conversation. Let's take a look at 2 more tweets and then we wind up. It's Ongiro says, the 2/3 gender rule should be declared null and void. Let men and women compete.
Sorry.
Let men and women compete squarely, especially on elective posts. You've talked about
I've talked about that, right.
Let's take a look at one final one. Is this a final one? Okay. Janet, we are almost coming to a close of this conversation. Let's start with, where do we go from here in terms of ensuring that in the next 5, in the next 10, 15 years, we make strides. They could be 1 or 2 strides, but they're tangible strides towards achieving gender equality in Kenya?
I think I can say 2 things. 1, let's create a safe space for people to have these conversations. Like I said in the beginning, they're very polarizing conversations. And it's sad. You know, sometimes you even put out a tweet. You may not have the information, but you have the passion, but you're attacked. Like you don't even know what you're saying. Stay in your lane. What do you mean? You know, let's allow people to bring whatever knowledge they have, and then let's find a way to now teach each other. How do we talk about gender equality? What does it mean? Why is it better for everyone? And that's part of what I do as, you know, project lead for Better for Kenya, which is, you know, a campaign that really tries to use influencers to amplify gender equality messaging. So let's create those spaces. Let's talk. Let's literally talk. And storytelling is one of the ways I'm doing it with the book, which is let's have people narrate their stories and their realities so that you begin to pick, oh, okay, these are the issues through the voices of men and women who are experiencing them. That's what my first time is about. It's people interacting with menstruation. There's about 6-7 men that I profiled in the book as well, because I want, you know, men are our allies, let's include them. And women, we don't think about women who are visually impaired. We don't think about women living with a disability. We don't think about women with special needs and how they handle their period. And so yes, the tool and the point of conversation is menstruation, but it draws on inclusivity, sexism, because of these stories. So I think storytelling and conversation. The second one is what I've said earlier. We have great policies. Who is implementing them? We need the right stakeholders implementing these policies. If we don't have that, we'll go around in circles and we won't make any headway. Let's open it up. Let's bring a lot of people on the table and find a way that this implementation actually serves people on the ground. Yeah.
Camera 2 is her camera. Very briefly, for 30 seconds, because you're very passionate about the issue of particularly menstrual health in the country, and you've put a book together, which I understand will be out towards November.
Yeah.
Why is it important that we have these conversations and we care about menstrual health of women and girls in this country?
Camera 2?
Yes.
I think nobody should be locked out. We've talked about, the line we've used a lot here is every life matters. And so on that note alone, it's unfair that there's girls who are locked out of thriving simply because they don't have access to sanitary products and the right information about their bodies. They end up falling pregnant. They end up being victims of sexual and gender-based violence. They end up contracting HIV. They end up being traumatized. They miss out on school, so they're not able to compete at the same level of boys. They're locked out of the opportunity at a better life. The other reason why we should all care is because it affects us. It feeds into the poverty cycle, the crime cycle. It feeds into the reinforced trauma that as a girl, I am reduced to the fact that I'm this dirty, shameful person. I don't belong. I don't deserve. If we reinforce this stigma, we are traumatizing another generation. And so periods is the tool for a broader conversation around sexism, gender equality, and the need to make sure that every single life matters. Yes, the book should be out sometime in November, mid to early November. I'll communicate those details on my social media soon. But I don't think it's been done before, collecting very inclusive voices, blind, disability, special needs, well-known faces, men like an imam and a pastor, talking about periods as a broader, even a former inmate, as a broader tool for why do we need to care about what's happening in the lives of our girls and women. Janet
Mbugua, thank you very much for coming. Thank you for lending your voice to this worthy cause. And this is not a conversation that stops here or ends today. 5 years down the line, we'd like to come back, sit down, take stock. How far have we gone and what more can we do to keep pushing this cause further ahead?
Thank you for having me. I've really enjoyed myself. Thank you.
Thank you. We've come to the end of the show. Every good thing has to have an end. But as usual, we must dose each other with a bitter dose of the truth. The EACC, Ethics and Anti-Corruption Commission, says a third of our national budget is wasted on corruption. This year's budget was about 3.2 trillion. That makes 1 trillion go to waste. The most popular scandals, let's take a look at even the Aurora and Kimorel Dam. About 21 billion shillings has sunk. Just 300 million or 400 million to restore dignity to our girls. Yet there's a bill, but no implementation. Or 2 months of sanitary towels and 10 months of bleeding and staying at home. Listen, it's now a country to bleed in this country. It's a crime, rather, to have periods in this country. But again, the culture deems it a crime not to have your periods because you'll not be woman enough. Enough is enough for the Kenyan girl. My name is Ndiro Ganga. I'll see you again next week on Thursday.